Ladies. My name is Claudia Avar, and I am a kindergarten teacher in District 4. I'm also your virtual content specialist for kindergarten math. For today's lessons and for today's videos, we want to go into Teach Hub Lessons, week 35 of math. I will share my screen. We are going to be looking at 3 different lessons, only because we want to make sure that we show you the continuity between the work that we're doing. Day 10 is the second part of lesson 5. Day 11 is the first part of lesson 6, and day 12 is the second part of lesson 6. So let's focus on day 10 for starters. When you did the first part of lesson 1, of lesson 5, you asked your students to share some of the outlines that they made. And here, in the implementation guidance, which is going to be the guidance for your launch, we reference that. Look through the creations that your students share with you from the previous day's lesson. Select a few as assignments for students to fill and share the codes with the class. Alternatively, you may use this pre-made activity on Pattern Shapes app for your launch. Share your screen and say, yesterday you made these creations, and so on. So I'm going to use this hyperlink to guide you into what it is that we're going to use. I'm going to use the one that we have created. And what we're asking the children to do, the launch for this, and let me reference that really quickly. It will be this slide. It will be the yellow introduction/launch. What we want the children to do is to fill in this creation with pattern blocks. Count and write the number of blocks you use. So let's go ahead and create a way or fill this in the easiest way. The easiest way for me is always to kind of envision the shapes, and I guide my students. I always tell my students which shape should I be putting in here, which of the pattern blocks fits here. They will say the hexagon, here the rhombuses, and I always remind them of the names. Let's go ahead and continue filling them in. We can go ahead and use the trapezoid here. I'm going to flip it around a little bit. Try to make it fit here. And then I can go ahead and use another one here. Once we have done this, the goal is to now find a second way to do it. How will we do that? Here you see that the shade is pulled down. Go ahead and click on the little eye, and it reveals the shape for you. Fill in the creation of pattern blocks a different way. Count and write the number of patterns block you use. I didn't count here, so let me go ahead and count 1, 2, 3. Your students will, actually, let me use the pencil option. Go ahead and write the number 3 here, because I only use 3. So then we will be creating now here. What are some of the ways that we can do this? Now here, what you want to do is challenge your students to do it with different shapes. Find a different way to do it so that you're not using the same shapes over and over. So let's go ahead and use some rhombus here. Going to use one here. I'm going to bring another one. Let me highlight it because I need to move it. Not allowing me to move it. Uh-oh. Let me get rid of the shade. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. Can I fit another rhombus in here? Yes, I can. Let me move this one. I'm going to click on it so I can manipulate it. And then I can actually move this one like so. Show your students a different way to create it, because this is what they will be doing in their Explore slides. Let's go back into those. When your children are now back in the session, the Explore slides, which they do independently, are going to ask them to create shapes. This first one continues the work from yesterday, in which they have an option, to choose 5 shapes to create a new shape. They will copy and paste the image of your creation and then create an outline. We showed all of these steps before. And then the rest of the Explore slides, they will be getting their own puzzles to create and to fill in. And just like we did before, they will have to do it in 2 different ways. Here's the first one. They will fill this one out, and once this one is done, they can reveal to show that they will need to do the second one. Show them how to get rid of it. So they will show you the same creation. They will show you 2 different creations, different pattern blocks after they choose the first ones. You might want to make this a little bit more challenging for your students and tell them not to repeat the shapes, which will be hard to use, but you can. There are ways to do that. You can tell them to use 2 shapes here, maybe 4 shapes here. You want to challenge them so that the work is still engaging to them. As we go into the other days, on day 11, you will see the Explore slides again. Click here for a copy of the puzzle. Same thing that we were just doing. Here you have them now without the shade. So you have the pattern blocks here, fill them in, do the same thing here. And then let's go on to day 12 for another sample of it. And again, in the explore slides, show me 2 different ways of filling them in. Always remind them to write the number of blocks that they are using. Now, there are many ways to make this work engaging for your children. We know that you are master teachers and you will find a way to do that. One way, like I said before, is to limit the number of shapes that they use. Maybe you want to tell them to challenge themselves and step out of their box. But for some children, you might also want to guide them on how to do that. You might want to overlay the shapes. You might want to show them how to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you really quickly. My students particularly have needed this. So I will go back to this one that I was working on. And instead of moving on to this one right away, I will show them how I do it right over the rhombus so that they can fit the shapes in. And once they do this, it'll be a little bit easier to transfer it over. I want to show them the different ways of filling in a shape, filling in the outline, because sometimes they themselves are not quite able to do that. Okay? Thank you for watching, colleagues. We hope that you found this video useful. We'll see you next time.